You know that feeling. When you're driving home late at night and your headlights are the only thing cutting through the dark. The world shrinks to just you, the hum of the engine, and the dashed yellow line. It's peaceful in a way. You feel isolated, untouchable. I used to love that feeling. Now, I can't stand it. This happened 2 winters ago. I was working the late shift at a print shop about 45 minutes from my house. It was one of those bleak, rainy December nights where the cold seeps into your bones. The clock hit midnight, and I was the last one out. I remember locking up. The clunk of the deadbolt sounded way too loud in the empty parking lot. My car was the only one left. The route home was all backroads. No street lights, just long stretches of pine forest broken up by the occasional farmhouse, all dark at that hour. The rain was coming down harder now, and my wipers were struggling. I leaned forward, squinting to see past the glare on the asphalt. That's when I saw him. Just up ahead, under a lone, rusted mailbox. A figure stood in the rain. No coat, just a dark hoodie, soaked through. He was just standing there, facing the road. I felt a pang of, I don't know, pity. Concern. Who stands in the pouring rain at midnight? As I passed him, my headlights lit him up for a split second. His head was down, the hood shadowing his face, but I could see his hands hanging limp at his sides. Water dripped from his fingertips. I drove on, checking my rear view. He didn't move. He just stood there, swallowed by the darkness behind me. I shook it off. A weird guy having a weird night. I turned up the radio and tried to forget about it. About 10 minutes later, I came around a sharp bend. And there he was. Same dark hoodie. Same stance. But this was miles from where I'd first seen him. There's no way he could have gotten there on foot. My stomach did a slow, cold roll. This time, as my lights hit him, his head was up. The hood was still down, but I could have sworn he was looking right at me. A pale, blank oval of a face. I hit the gas. Hard. The car lurched forward. My heart hammered against my ribs. It's a coincidence, I told myself. It's a different guy. Brothers, maybe. It has to be. But the rational part of my brain was shutting down, replaced by a deep fear. 5 minutes from my house. The rain was starting to slack off. My knuckles turned white on the steering wheel. I scanned the sides of the road, terrified of seeing him again. The trees looked like crowded, watching figures. I finally turned onto my street, a dead-end lane with only 3 houses on it. Mine was at the very end. I pulled into my driveway, killed the engine, and just sat there for a minute, listening to the engine tick as it cooled. The relief was overwhelming. I was home. I was safe. I got out, fumbling for my keys. The rain was now just a fine mist. That's when I heard it. A footstep. Not on the gravel of the driveway, but on the wet lawn. Slow. Deliberate. I froze, my keys clenched in my fist. I turned my head slowly. He was there. At the edge of my property, right where the light from my porch didn't quite reach. Just standing. Watching me. His clothes dripped, pooling water at his feet. He was closer than ever. I didn't scream. I didn't challenge him. Pure instinct took over. I scrambled for my front door, my hands shaking so badly I could barely get the key in the lock. I finally shoved it open, fell inside, and slammed it shut, throwing the deadbolt. I leaned against the door, gasping for air. Call the police. Call the police now. I stumbled to the window beside the door, peering through the gap in the blinds. My breath fogged the glass. The driveway was empty. The lawn was empty. He was gone. I let out a choked sob of relief. Maybe I'd imagined it. The stress, the fatigue, I was about to turn away when my eyes dropped to the ground right outside my window. There, on the porch, were wet footprints. They led right up to my door, and then stopped. As if whoever made them had been standing there, just on the other side of the wood, listening to me panic. Then I saw it. Something small and dark lying in the center of the welcome mat. Something that hadn't been there when I left that morning. I unlocked the door again, my heart in my throat, and pushed it open just a crack. I reached out a trembling hand and picked it up. It was a small, wooden figurine. Hand-carved rough. It was a little rabbit. Frozen in a state of alarm, its ears pinned back. A hunter's decoy. And it was soaked, dripping with rainwater. The police came. They took a report. They said it was probably a prank. Kids. They asked if I had any enemies. They took the little wooden rabbit as evidence. I never got it back. They never found him. No fingerprints. No sightings. Nothing. Life went on. I changed my shifts. I got motion sensor lights installed. I bought better locks. But some things you can't lock out. Every time it rains, I check. I look out all the windows before I go to bed. I make sure the blinds are shut tight. And sometimes, on those really quiet, rainy nights, I think I hear it. A single, soft footstep on the wet grass outside my window. I see it sitting on my nightstand, the new little wooden figurine I found on my porch last week. A little fox this time. Its head is tilted. Listening. He never really left. I think he's just waiting for the rain to start again. They tell you that your first apartment is a rite of passage, a small taste of independence. Mine was a studio on the third floor of an old converted house. It had charm. Creaky floorboards, high ceilings, and those old, drafty windows that whistle when the wind blows. I loved it, at least for about a week. The first thing I noticed was the smell. Not a bad smell, just old. It smelled like dust, dry wood, and something sweet, almost like decaying flowers. The superintendent said it was just the building settling. After all, it was over 100 years old. I believed him. Then the noises started. These weren't the usual groans of an old building. They were specific sounds. I heard a scratching noise inside the wall behind my headboard. It wasn't like a mouse, much slower and more deliberate, like a fingernail dragging down the plaster. Soon, I began to feel watched. I know it's a cliché. But you won't understand until you feel it yourself. I'd be reading on the couch, and the hair on my neck would stand up. I'd turn around, and of course, nothing was there. Just the empty apartment and the dark windows. One Tuesday night, I was washing dishes. The window above the sink looked out onto the side of the neighboring building, just a narrow alley about 6 feet wide. It was pitch black out there. While I scrubbed a plate, I saw a reflection move in the black glass of the window. Behind me. I froze. My breath caught. I turned around slowly. The apartment was empty. Of course, it was. I laughed at myself, a nervous, shaky sound. I turned back to the window and jumped. There was a face in the window. It was only there for a second, a pale, blurred oval reflected in the glass, superimposed over the darkness outside. My own reflection. I had to be seeing things. I gripped the edge of the sink. My heart racing, and leaned closer to the window, peering out into the alley. Nothing, just pure blackness. I was about to pull away when I saw something. In the building across the alley, on the same floor as me, a window was open. Just a crack. And in that crack was darkness. But a different kind of darkness. A solid darkness. As I stared, a single, faint red light glowed in the center of that darkness for a split second, like the tip of a cigarette being lit, and then vanished. Someone was in that room. In that supposedly vacant apartment. Watching me. The next day, I went to the superintendent. I told him everything. I explained the noises, the feeling, the face in the window, and the cigarette light. He laughed. He said the building across the alley had been condemned for years. The doors were boarded up, and there was no way anyone was in there. He said the power had been cut a decade ago. He patted my shoulder and suggested I needed to get out more, maybe get a cat. I tried to believe him. I really did. But that night the scratching got louder, and it had a new pattern. Scratch, scratch, pause. Scratch, scratch, pause. It felt like a code. I couldn't sleep. I just lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling and listening. Then I heard a new sound. A faint, metallic scrape. Then a click. It came from the closet. I sat bolt upright. My blood ran cold. That was not the building settling. That was the sound of the latch on my closet door being turned. I didn't move. I couldn't. I just stared at the strip of darkness under my bedroom door. Then I saw a shadow move across it. Something or someone was walking from the closet, through my living room, and toward the kitchen. Toward the window. I finally found my voice. Hello. I croaked. The shadow stopped. The entire apartment was silent, not a creak, not a breath. Then, from the kitchen, I heard a sound that makes my skin crawl to this day. It was a low, wet clicking sound, like someone sucking on their teeth. Click, click, click. It came from the exact spot by the window where I had seen the reflection. I didn't wait. I didn't think. I scrambled out of bed, ran to my door, and fled. I spent the night in my car in a 24-hour grocery store parking lot. The next morning, I brought the superintendent back to my apartment. I insisted he check the closet. He was annoyed, but he humored me. He opened the door, shoved my winter coats aside. And then he fell silent. What? I asked. What is it? He stepped back, his face pale. I pushed forward and looked. In the back wall of the closet, behind my clothes, was a hole. About 2 feet wide. It wasn't rough, like broken plaster. It was smooth, worn, as if it had been used for a long time. And it didn't lead to the outside wall. It angled sharply to the right. Toward the wall I shared with the empty apartment next door. The police found things in that space between the walls. A blanket. Empty water bottles. A stack of my mail. And Polaroids, dozens of them. Pictures of me sleeping. Pictures of me reading. Pictures taken through my own windows. They never found him. They said he must have lived in the crawl spaces, moving through the walls of the old building for who knows how long. They boarded up the hole and assured me I was safe. I moved out the next day and left everything behind. But sometimes, in my new apartment, in a modern concrete building with no crawl spaces, I'll hear a noise. A pipe will knock. The fridge will hum. For a split second, it sounds like a wet clicking sound. Click, click, click. And I know. He didn't want the apartment. He didn't want my things. He just liked to watch. And I can't shake the feeling that he found someone new to watch. Or that he's still looking for me.